in any college football season. Ranked team against unranked opponent, and we'll see if the upset can shake up the rankings in this one. Welcome, everyone, to Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana, home of the Indiana Hoosiers. As we'll see a squad from the Big Ten, the UCLA Bruins, taking on the 6th-ranked team in the land, the Indiana Hoosiers. For EA Sports College Football, I'm Reese Davis, joined here in the booth by David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. And guys, let's get this thing started. The Hoosiers will get us started with the opening kickoff. Here he comes from inside his own 5. Nice job executing all of the assignments as they put a stop to that return at the 22. So UCLA's offense will take the field first. And this is a matchup that we've been talking about coming into this. High-powered offense squaring off against a defense that is more than capable of shutting them down. This one's going to be fun, David.
Yeah, and this defense has been able to do that. Like every offense they've faced, they play great. They take away what you do best. Obviously, Palmer, on that other side, this is a high-powered offense. They're really, really good. How does this matchup unfold?
You're right, David, and I think as the season's gone on, this is a matchup that we've circled on our calendar, knowing that these two teams were going to square off and face each other. So many guys on the field today are going to play in the National Football League. There's a lot of experience on both sides of the ball. This one's going to be fun to watch.
Looking for space, it's Thomas. Tackle is made at the 28 after a pickup of 3.
Man, it's really hard to control the running game if you don't control the line of scrimmage. And how about the defensive line doing a great job attacking those guys up front, not open up lanes to run through. Nice job just nullifying that run altogether.
The Bruins come to the line on 3rd and short, trying to keep the drive alive. To the air, it's Iamaleava. Quarterback feeling the pressure, and down he goes at the 22.
Coaches talk about 3rd downs all the time. They emphasize it in football games, and that's a great start for this defense. They're ready for the pass, nice coverage in the back end. They get the sack, and they set the tone in this football game.
And the Bruins will line up to punt it away. This will be their first punt of the afternoon. A fair catch taken just inside the 40-yard line. So Indiana's offense will try to get something going with their first possession. Guys, if you listen closely, I think you can hear the jawing going already between this quarterback and wide receiver. What a matchup, Jesse, it's going to be between those two.
You know, so many people have already been talking about this individual one-on-one matchup, David, and it's going to be happening out on an island all game long. The receiver's got speed, he's got game-breaking ability, catching the football, can climb the ladder. He's going up against one of the best shutdown corners in the game. I cannot wait to watch this.
Yeah, and he's got the speed to stay with him and the instincts, and he's been so great out wide in every game. This is a huge test. This is a Sunday test. 2 NFL guys going at it to see who's going to take him.
There he goes. He's brought down the one. A play for this offense, and they'll have it at the 12-yard line.
Nice completion here to this wide receiver, and you're going to see this receiver line up in different spots all over the field all game long. Defense has got to keep their eye on where this guy is because they know he's a big part of this offense's success.
And the Hoosiers looking to take advantage of this red zone trip. The RPO, fire complete to the left. And this one will be stopped for no gain. Well, that helped the completion percentage, but the idea was yards after the catch, and it didn't happen.
Great job on defense, too. See ball, get ball. They saw exactly when that ball was spit out. You saw the defense fly to the football.
2nd down coming up on this red zone opportunity. Red pass, it's complete. They go up top to get it down to the 5-yard line as they try to pay off this drive.
This quarterback right now is in a groove, and he's doing a nice job in pre-snap. He's reading the coverage, and he's getting an idea of where he wants to go with the football. That's why the ball's coming out of his hands so quickly. That's why he seems like he's in a great rhythm right now.
Wants to throw again. He makes a grab.
close to the goal line. Great job by the tight end on his route for that touchdown.
Getting ready for the extra point after the first score of the game. And he's got the extra point, and it's 7-0 to start this one. A very efficient 5-play scoring drive. And the score comes on a 5-yard touchdown pass. Kickoff unit on the field, and this defense will be called on to protect this lead. On the move from inside his 5. Not a lot of space to be found. Good hustle by the coverage team, and they stop him at the 21. UCLA will go back to work on offense. They went 3 and out on their first possession, now to see if they can be more productive this time around. Trying to escape and get it himself.
Well, you're making a positive out of a negative. And that time, quarterback, nice job buying time. He's trying to throw the football downfield. Nothing there, so instead of throwing it away and getting the incomplete, just get what you can get and make this next down more manageable.
The Bruins can really attack on this 2nd and short. Running back searching for a hole. That is a big win for this defense as they were right there as soon as he got the ball.
You just need more from your offensive line. 2nd and short like that, you'd love to be able to fire off the ball and pick that up running it, but the defense was able to get penetration. They were able to get a stop, and now you set up 3rd down, and this offensive line is going to have to play a lot better here.
Back to throw, it's Iamaleava. Just a short pass to the tight end. He's going to have enough to pick up the 1st down as they stop him at the 33-yard line.
That's a 3rd down the offense simply had to have there. You're obviously trailing early in this game. You're trying to generate some momentum. So 3rd down, defense is playing zone. You just got to find the soft spot in coverage, make it easy on your quarterback. Those two guys able to link up.
Here comes the rush, and they've got him wrapped up at the 28. Though there are some notable exceptions, typically great pass rushers aren't nose tackles, but that was a great pass rush.
They're not nose tackles usually, those great pass rushers, but they are grown men. I mean, those are some adults in there. Those are the 300-plus pounders that will just destroy you in the run game. But nice job using his hands, using some power to shrink that pocket and get the sack.
Hand off from the shotgun. Oh, he's got some space. Nice pickup on the ground there, and they'll move the sticks with the 1st down.
That's a nice-looking run. That reminds me of Jonathan Franklin, Maurice Jones-Drew, Zach Charbonnet. In recent years, they've had a lot of ability at the running back position. How about this name, though? Little-known fact. The great Jackie Robinson also played running back for UCLA, and you know he's smiling down from heaven watching that last carry.
They'll give it to him again. And a nice solid pickup there before the defense wrestles him to the ground.
And winning 1st downs is a priority for a defense, and you can't get bludgeoned. You can't get physically beat at the point of attack. You know the percentages. It's usually pretty good on 1st down that they're going to run the football. So them getting that big chunk, getting in 2nd and short, not a good job by this defense.
From the gun, they'll give it on the inside. He showed off a few moves, but not enough to get away from all of those defenders as they stop him for a loss.
And you can tell that play went nowhere from the start.
It was definitely a great play by that defender.
Oh, yeah, he got the backfield so quick, the running back had absolutely no chance.
And the Bruins line up, trying to move the sticks on 3rd and short. Dropping back, it's Iamaleava. Throws to the wideout. And he dropped it. Incomplete pass in what would have been a huge gain. No defender anywhere around, and he just flat dropped it. The Bruins will punt it away on 4th down. This will be the 2nd time they've had to kick it away. And just a spectacular punt. It'll go out of bounds inside the 5-yard line and really put this offense in a hole. Out of the gun, the inside handoff, looking for a crease. Gives him a little more breathing room, a 3-yard gain out to the 7.
And I kind of like how the running back didn't mess around. Like, just get downhill when you see an opening. A lot of times they close so fast, man. Be decisive, stick your foot in the ground, pick up 3 to 4, and we are not going to complain.
Clock strikes 0 here in the quarter, and Indiana is on top. Guys, let's have a look at the stats as we've played one period. Now to see if these guys can get back in the game as we open the second quarter. Trying play action. Pulls it in. It's Cooper. Not quite so backed up after that play. He's out of bounds at the 12.
My old coach said you'll never go broke taking a profit. Take what's there, take the positive yards, and never complain.
The Hoosiers come to the line on 3rd and short, looking to keep the drive moving. He'll do it himself. You know those defenders wanted to light him up. Quarterback wisely gets down with the slide.
That's got to hurt if you're the offense, because you're thinking with this quarterback and his size and his athleticism, that's going to be an easy first down pickup on the option play. But how about the physicality up front by this defense, stuffing him at the line of scrimmage?
They kick it away on 4th down. He only needs a sliver of daylight. That nifty return sets up the offense and negates some of the yardage on the punt. The UCLA offense is back on the field, ready to go to work. And he dropped it. It looked for all the world like that would be a catch, and he just got too excited.
Just got to finish the play through the wide receiver. You got to look that one in and complete it. It's a bad drop.
Plenty of work to do here on 2nd and long. Looking to throw, it's Iamaleava. This time he's got his man. Just what this offense was looking for. Sets him up at the 26 with the first down.
At the 26-yard line. And that's a first down for the offense.
Passing game kept this drive moving. Let's see if they try it again. He'll keep it himself. And he'll pick up 1. It brings up 2nd and 9.
They go with the option. Quarterback keeps it himself. And look, we've seen this guy on tape, guys, break these tackles and take it the distance. This offense should keep dialing up these option plays. Don't let that short gain by the QB prevent you from running this scheme in your playbook.
Off the boot, looking for his man. Not able to hook up there, incomplete.
Yeah, and sometimes the coverage is just great. And as a quarterback, you throw the football away or don't try to force it too tight into a window, and you just say, hey, defense won that bet. Good coverage.
They run into a bit of trouble here. 3rd and long from the 25, and the last thing they want is to get knocked out of field goal range. From the gun, wants to pass. Working that left side now. He's got enough. It'll be a first down. They've got it at the 12.
Well, look, that wasn't a touchdown, but that was a massive play for this offense. They needed some momentum. They needed to find a rhythm, and what better way than converting on 3rd down. Awesome job by the quarterback getting through his progression.
They'll keep it on the ground. He almost punched it in for 6. They'll get him down at the 1-yard line.
First down, physicality wins football games. Being able to run the football and create balance. And right here, just choose up another first down. Gives you another chance to maybe continue to run the football.
And I feel like this guy, too, is just an explosive play waiting to happen. His vision, his quickness, and he's got a burst. If you give this guy just a crease, he's going to hit it. Right now, he's doing some damage on this defense.
There is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide on these situations. You know the physical ground game comes into play inside the 5-yard line, and they match the intensity. Nice job. Everybody flying around to the football, making the tackle for a loss. Nice job by this defense.
Looking for a path to the end zone to the right. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that.
Well, he gets tackled down at the 1-yard line, so offensively, do you feel confident enough on third here trying to hand it off again?
Yeah, and I'm taking both these downs, and I'm coming downhill. I'm running the football, trying to get this in the end zone. I only got a yard to go. I got to be physical.
They'll try to sneak it.
Second quarter might not be gamble time, but inside the 3, Palmer, I've got the green light. I'm going for this.
I am too, and you're essentially running a 2-point play here, right? You've got a play you've practiced all week long. That's the play you dial up right here.
And the Bruins will try to convert on 4th down. To the air, it's Iamaleava. Touchdown, UCLA! Quick strike through the air for the score.
And that is why timing is so important in the passing game. That is a critical 4th down. Down near the goal line, everything's going to happen quickly. It's got to be a great route. The quarterback has to get rid of it on time and make an accurate throw. 2 dudes on the exact same page coming up with a massive touchdown down near the goal line on 4th down.
Extra point here will tie the game. And he knocks the extra point through the uprights. A pretty short drive there, covering 38 yards. And they close that drive going to the air for the final few inches and the score. The kickoff unit is out there, and boy, did that last drive quiet this crowd. From a couple of yards deep, he'll bring it out. He was looking for some running room, but not much to be found as he stopped at the 18. Indiana sends the offense onto the field. Gonna run it. It's Hemby. And a pickup of 8 opens a world of opportunities on 2nd and 2.
It's got to feel good as an offense knowing that early in the drive you can turn around, hand it off, get a push up front, and go get positive yardage.
And the Hoosiers in a good spot here with 2nd and short. Give to the running back. Turning it on! Really good job to pick up a chunk of yardage and get it out to the 39-yard line.
Man, who says you can't run up the middle anymore, right? Everybody thinks I got to make big plays. I got to go way out to the left, way out to the right, way out in space. Nope, right down the middle. Nice blocking. How about the running back? You could tell the speed, the wheels, does a great job getting down the field, making a huge rushing play.
Off the play fake on 1st down to throw. Quickly out to the tight end. You know, we joke that the tight end's always open, David, but play action almost makes it impossible to keep them coming.
And yeah, because those guys, they're such good blockers most of the time. They're big and physical, and they cell block for a second, and then they run open and they find holes in zones, or they get good matchups. And man, those tight ends nowadays are nightmares for defenses to try to stop.
Looking to pass, it's Mendoza. Got his man downfield. He's finally stopped, but not before he takes it into the red zone. They'll mark it at the 18.
And this defense is going to have their hands full because they're going to need to be comfortable with guys one-on-one on islands in the perimeter of the field, and they're just going to have to make better plays than what we saw right there. They knew this offense was going to try to be aggressive. Got to need better effort in the back end for this defense moving forward.
Now the play fake. Looking down the middle. He's got it. And he was thinking 6, but that D knocks him down at the 2. The defense going to stop the clock with a timeout. They want to make sure they have everybody on the same page. The Hoosiers trying to get a touchdown on 1st and goal. He's looking to pass. Caught in the backfield, it's Hemby. And that one looked great on the grease board, but when they blow it up like that, the defense is going to win every time.
And you're trying to get the ball to the running back quick and let him get some space, but there was absolutely no space. They penetrated quickly, and they got him before he could even get going.
And there was nowhere to go, just stopped in his tracks in the backfield. Quick timeout by the defense there, trying to make sure everyone has the same call. It's 3rd and goal and 3rd and long. From the gun, wants to pass. Hit as he throws. Touchdown, Hoosiers! Fitted in the window for the score.
And I just love the execution by this offense. Late in the half, man, you want to take the lead. You want to get that momentum on your side, and they do it. They finish it with the passing game. I'll tell you what, keep that passing game up. You can keep this lead, keep the momentum, and keep putting up numbers.
They'll try to add another to their lead. And the extra point is true, and they're on top by 7. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Kickoff unit on the field, and this defense will be called on to protect this lead. And he takes this from inside the 5. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. Opening play of this drive will come from their own 23. Dropping back, it's Iamaleava. Unloads to the wideout. Complete in the middle. And he'll get it up to the 38. It'll be a first down.
And I love the awareness by the wide receiver on that play because I'm not sure that route was supposed to be that deep. You got to wonder if the receiver decided maybe to adjust the route a little bit to make sure that he got the first down.
It's 1st and 10 from the 38-yard line. Fires to the big fella. And that corner came in hot despite knowing that he was giving up some size.
I'll tell you, I love the play call on first down here. You're just trying to find an easy completion, and the shortest throw on the field for the quarterback is finding your biggest target, and that's the tight end. Nice job.
The Bruins with a 2nd and short to keep this drive moving. Looking to fire. Here comes the heat. Oh, he's got a chance. He gets the job done, picking up the first down, then getting down.
I love the play call there, too, because 2nd and short, defense is thinking you might run it. So you try to catch them off guard with the pass. Nothing there. Even if you throw an incompletion, you're going to have a chance to run it the very next play, but it doesn't matter. This guy's just so athletic himself. He's able to go get the first. Let's get a fresh set of downs.
It is incomplete, and now there are 4 seconds remaining.
This defense has a lot of speed, especially in the secondary, and you saw that speed. That defender got to that receiver so quick, and because of the hit, incomplete pass.
On 2nd down, they'll try the field goal to get the points before halftime. That is no good. After that miss, still a 7-point game, guys. That's going to wrap up the first half here, and now we join Kevin with the halftime update.
Guys, don't tell me it's a basketball town when we've had a first half like that there in Bloomington. And there's no more fitting place to begin than with this stud receiver and how he's dominated the first half. Some guys have the ability to elude and evade. This young man is a true 3-level threat. Short passes, the intermediate game, and in the deep ball, he is a problem. And I don't think this defense has the solution. With that said, let's send it back to the guys at Memorial Stadium.
And the Bruins will line up to kick off and start the second half. And he's coming out of the end zone. Not nearly as much as he'd hoped when he brought it out of the end zone. He'll be stopped at the 15. Indiana has the ball back, and the Hoosier offense comes out ready to go. Rushes on him. Finds his tight end. And he'll run across the sidelines after the good gain. There's not a lot more beautiful in football than the play action and the open tight end.
Yeah, because it freezes those linebackers. It freezes those safeties because they have to come up for a second and play the run. And then the big tight ends, big targets on the back end can catch the football and make big plays.
Punch it out of the air. Stopped at about the 25-yard line, but it'll be a first down.
Complete some of these hitch throws early, you're setting up the hitch and go. Later on, you can pump fake that, and then the receiver can pirouette right up the sideline. That might be a home run play for the offense.
They've got it 1st and 10 from the 25. Used the play fake, now to throw. Caught over the middle, it's Williams. And they pick up just a few on that completion.
Well, they execute the in route. How about the arm strength by the QB? That was an absolute bullet on that completion.
Working well behind the sticks on 2nd down. A strike downfield. And he was loose and not stopped until he gets to the 47-yard line.
Great execution on the RPO, and the receiver had some time to find the soft spot in the zone and make himself open for the quarterback and make it a much easier pass. Great job.
And the Hoosiers are moving quickly down the field. Back to pass, it's Mendoza. Throws to the tight end. Got a man in the middle. Ripping through the defense and getting it all the way down to the 24-yard line.
Got to like that big, reliable security blanket. And that's what tight ends are a lot of the times. They're just usually big, huge guys that if I throw it anywhere near him, he's going to pluck it, catch it, and give me some positive yards.
The Hoosiers have it with a 1st and 10. Looking to throw on 1st down. Finds the tight end. And the defense had that one well covered, just a short gain there.
And nice job by the defense staying glued to him. Getting him on the ground as soon as he catches the football. Knowing he's a threat, I'm not going to let this guy get out of my sights. Nice job by the D.
What will they dial up on 2nd and a long way to go? Quarterback flips it ahead quickly to the receiver. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play.
Really good job by the defense, seeing it and going and getting it. Nice job understanding the touch pass. It could happen. Those guys go in motion, man. I got to understand. Safety's got to see that, start flying down, getting ready to play that. Nice job by the defense being ready for that play.
On 3rd and long, he's going to have to throw for it. Nice job by this junior quarterback to get it done on the ground.
You have got to have pass rushing lane integrity when you face this quarterback. On 3rd down, someone gets out of his gap right up the middle. It's easy for the quarterback to see. He just tucks it and takes off and picks up the 1st down.
And the Hoosiers will try to put one on the board on 1st and goal. He's looking to throw. Looking for the goal line. Touchdown, Indiana! And they take it in for 6 more points.
Man, this defense has their hands full. They're dealing with a quarterback that is pinpoint accurate, making good decisions, and they're dealing with a wide receiving group that has a lot of speed and some burners on the perimeter. They might want to think about playing some more zone coverage moving forward. That's now 3 passing TDs they've allowed.
Lining up to tack one more onto that lead. And the extra point puts them on top 21-7. So a drive there of 85 yards, and they close the deal with the 7-yarder for the score. Kickoff unit is out there again, and this crowd is feeling themselves after that last drive. On the run from inside his own 5. And the returner will be brought down. UCLA will go back to work on offense. Now we'll get a chance to see if they can answer that last score, trailing by 14, Jesse.
Yeah, and at this point of the game, I feel like offensively, you should go back to what's been working for you in this game. Don't be afraid to dial up plays that you've already had success with, running it and throwing it. It's okay to repeat plays down 14 at this point.
And I would also say, Palmer, kind of understanding that my defense is not playing great, so I know offensively I got to put some good possessions together here, make something happen on this side of the football.
To throw, it's Iamaleava. Quick strike complete. And a good job of coverage by that defense, just a short pickup.
This defense is going to have to be careful. Not only do they have to worry about this guy running the football, but they've got to keep their eye on him when he runs routes too. He is a versatile back.
They're dealing with a 2nd and long. They'll run play action. He finds a dead spot in the middle. They'll get him at the 45, but he got 10 on that one.
I think one of the most undervalued assets in good quarterback play is the play action game. Making the run fake honestly and truthfully looking like run. You're fooling the defense, and then you're just making it easier on yourself because you're giving yourself bigger lanes to throw the football into.
Off the play fake on 1st down to throw. Tight end finds a soft spot. They make the stop, trying to pick up just a little bit at a time to get to that 1st down marker.
How about the big fella, the tight end, the wide receiver in a tight end's body going up and making the catch?
So now it's 2nd and long. Back to pass. Grabbed in the middle. It's Matthews. And just a short, safe pass play. They pick up a few.
A nice job by the QB there, timing out that drag throw. It's zone coverage, so he's got to make sure he gets it to his receiver in a window to allow him to catch the ball and then turn it upfield.
The Bruins come to the line on 3rd down, trying to keep this drive alive. Lost to throw again. Quarterback feeling that pressure, and he's knocked down at the 42.
This defense will bring pressure from the linebacker level, from the cornerback level, free safety level, and the strong safety level. They're bringing it from all over the field.
And the Bruins will try to pin them back with the punt. Fair catch is signaled for and made. They'll mark it at the 12, and they'll start in a bit of a hole. Opening play of this drive comes from the 12-yard line. They'll move the tight end. From the shotgun, the inside give. Weaves his way ahead and gets 5 out to the 18-yard line.
And I think this has probably been the most surprising thing of this game so far. This guy's one of the best running backs in the entire country. They just can't get him going. He's never been able to get into a rhythm. You got to give the defense so much credit because they have been able to shut this guy down, and they got to keep that up here in the 2nd half.
Scanning the field, it's Mendoza. Works the middle. Brought down at the 28, but it's a 10-yard gain. Talk about spreading the ball around. Everyone getting a chance to show off the hands based on the number of targets we've seen. One more period to go, and we'll see just how much fight they've got left in them. Final stands of the game, and we'll start with the 1st down. On the run, it's Temby. They'll rip off 8 on that play. It's 2nd and 2.
They've got a lead here in the 4th quarter, and there's certainly still plenty of football to go, but this is where you'd love to control the flow of the game, right? You want to dictate everything to the defense, and you do that by running the football. That was a really nice run. This offensive line is firing off late. Looks like they're getting stronger as the game goes on, and that is a good sign for the offense.
They make the stop, but he'll have enough yardage for a 1st down. Hoosiers are marching down the field. They'll try the counter. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage.
Great team defense on that run play. Everybody doing their job. People winning their one-on-ones, D linemen staying in their gaps, linebackers and DBs filling. You just can't do it better.
Got stuffed on first down. It's 2nd and 10. They'll move the wide receiver. Quarterback touch pass on the jet sweep. Breaks into the open.
Man, the defense, you hold your breath. When this receiver has the football out in space, you have got to make sure you're playing with outstanding pursuit. Nice job there, but as this game goes on, they've got to keep an eye on this guy and make sure they know where he is at all times.
And the Hoosiers come to the line on 3rd and short, looking to keep this drive moving. He'll go to the sneak. They'll move the chains. Good execution on 3rd down. They've got it at the 41.
3rd and 1, everyone knows it's coming, but the quarterback sneak is so hard to stop. They just got to get 1 yard. Nice job by the offensive line.
Well, a really good push by his center on that last play, making it easy for his quarterback to just tuck the football, belly it, get low, and drive your legs.
Oh, better look out! Big pickup on the ground here to keep this drive moving and give them a first down.
It's a point in the game, I think, as a coaching staff where you really challenge your offensive line to go win the football game, right? We've got to lead late. We're going to run the football, and the defense and everybody in the stadium knows that's what's going to happen. Can we run the ball down their throats and impose our will? That's what this offense right now is trying to do.
And I know you can play these late-game situations differently, but I love when you just stay physical. You run the football, you preserve the lead, you got great field position, you're in a great position to salt this clock away and get a W.
How about this methodical, soul-crushing drive? They've already drained more than 3 minutes off the clock as they snap it on 2nd down. Quarterback on the keeper. Stopped in the backfield. He's going to lose 3 yards on the play.
And it's difficult to contain athletic quarterbacks, but man, when everybody plays their assignment, it's a beautiful thing. I understand I got to take away this. I got to keep my eyes on the quarterback, make sure he doesn't pull that football. They weren't fooled, and the quarterback had nowhere to go with the football.
Looking for a man. It's Mendoza. Unleashes one deep. And good hands there by the defense on that shot to the end zone.
Oftentimes as a quarterback, when you have success early, you earn the right to take more shots. And I think that's what you're seeing now in this game. We're here late. They're still throwing it deep because this quarterback's thrown 3 touchdown passes. He's proven to his coach that he can get it done and he can make the right decisions and not put his offense in harm's way. And that's why you're still seeing them throw it vertically downfield.
And that one took everything he had to sneak it over the crossbar inside the left upright. And now the lead is extended a little further. They keep pushing that lead out, and the kickoff team's getting some work. He'll bring it back from inside his 5. Really disciplined job by the coverage unit to get down there and make the stop at the 19. The UCLA offense is back on the field, ready to go to work. Pulls it in. It's Berger. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage.
I know a lot of people are going to look at that play and say, man, that was a bad play. Didn't gain any yards. But that could be the offense maybe setting something up. The play caller is going to remember that last play. He's going to remember how the defense reacted to it, made a quick tackle. They might pump that throw and then hit another player vertically down the field for an explosive play down the line. Just keep that in mind.
He's brought down at the 29 after a 10-yard gain.
I'll tell you, you cannot count this team out because of who's playing quarterback. When this guy's in the game, it's never over. Yeah, they're trailing here in the 4th quarter, but this dude can put up points quickly.
They'll start this one from the 29 on 1st down. Back to throw, it's Iamaleava. He's got it down the middle. He's brought down quickly. Minimal gain there, still a bit short of the 1st down.
You just get the feeling this defense is going to make it hard on them, right? They've got the lead, it's late, and they're going to try to tackle everybody inbounds. Offense is going to have to really work for this and be smart. You got to attack the sidelines. You got to throw first downs. You got to keep this thing moving vertically down the field.
Pocket breaking down. And the defense, got him at the 27. Clock stops and we've reached the 2-minute timeout. This offense looking for anything to cut into this big lead. Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On third down, he drops to throw. And they can't hook up on the big play, and that brings up a fourth down.
Well, they take a shot down the field. It's another incompletion. It's really been that kind of story. This defense has made this guy earn it every single play. Really small windows to throw into. One touchdown pass. That's a little bit surprising. You thought maybe they'd have more in this game.
On fourth down, going to the air. Here's a throw downfield late. Picked off inside the 20, and they snuff out the threat. Takes it the other way. Finally brought down. The what a play, not only to get the football, but to flip the field position with the return.
And that's kind of what this offense has done all day. They have struggled. They haven't gotten a rhythm. They haven't found a way to get points on the scoreboard. And late in this game, when your defense and your team really needed it the most, Palmer, they throw the INT.
And it's a microcosm, too, of just how dominant the defense has been. They've always been a step ahead. They've been the more physical side, and they've been making plays on the back end. That interception should seal this thing.
They keep it on the ground. Clock is their friend. They'll pick up 4, 2nd and 6 coming. Kept it on the ground on first down, now back to the line. To the air, it's Mendoza. Throws to the back. Catch in the middle, it's Hemby. Brought down at the 25-yard line. Give him 15 yards on the pickup, and this offense is threatening.
Nice job by the running back, catching the football and understanding where the first down marker was. I got to go get that first down. He did a nice job of it.
The offense down to the 25 now, 1st and 10. They'll run it out of the shotgun. What a job up front, and he'll lose a yard on that one.
How frustrating is that? You're that running back. Where were you supposed to go? There was absolutely no lane for him on that play.
The Hoosiers now with a long way to go to pick up the first down.